How to change the Traxxas UDR Pinion gear. Well, I'm going to show you step by step, my fellow Driftomaniacs, exactly how to change the Unlimited Desert Racer Pinion gear. Very easy job, but as I was doing it, I thought I might as well video it to show it to other people. As ever, if you find this video useful, then please do consider subscribing and by all means share with others. Anyway, on with the step-by-step guide. Okay, well the first thing to do is to remove your existing battery tray and remove your batteries. Now the next thing to do is to remove 8 screws that hold down this rear cover. I'm not going to remove this one as this is of a slight sticking issue with this, but you will need to remove 8 screws on yours. So I'm going to use the power driver to remove all of these. Anyway, I shall speed the video up and go through these. Okay, as I said, this last one of mine, I managed to get that stuck in there, but I've been able to remove the cover anyway. Your next step is simply to slide the cover out. You'll note there is a tongue on the edge of this top flap on here. That needs to locate under there, so when you put it back together, you're going to need to make sure that flap goes under, not over the top of here. You might be tempted just to think there are these 2 screws to remove to undo the motor mount to get to the gear. Wrong, there are 3 of them. Do not be tempted once you've undone these 2 screws to try and use a screwdriver like to lever that away from there, because it will break. At a guess anyway. I thought there was something amiss on here, and there's a 3rd screw inside this little compartment here. It looks like just one smooth compartment on here, but these 2 screws allow you to then remove this little compartment here, giving access to the pinion gear and the 3rd screw. So I'm now going to undo these 2 screws, and there is a 3rd screw which I'll pull that up to the camera. There's a 3rd screw located just inside there, if you can see that, guys. I'm now going to speed this up as I undo these 3 screws. The first screw that you remove is longer than the other 2, so put this carefully to one side, ensure it goes back on the side nearest the battery compartment. Okay, with those 3 screws undone, the motor can now be removed, enabling you to change the pinion gear. What I would say is, as we lift this up, there is going to be a little pin on. In fact, I'm going to try and zoom in as best I can to show you the little pin, which is oh so vital. Now I'm hoping that gives me a view of it. The motor will now simply lift back. At this point, you want to be aware you are looking for a little pin that could potentially fall out into the chassis, and as luck would have it, it's not. It's down here. I'm going to zoom in even more to get a better view of this pin, so you can get a better view of this pin, because you don't want to lose this. Now, you can see these 2 rows of holes on here, and this little pin that you need to very carefully remove using your pliers. You need to very carefully remove this pin using some pliers. The hole it goes into will be dictated from the chart you will find on the Traxxas website and the instruction manual for the car. Depending on which hole, depending on the gear, the pinion gear you are fitting, will depend on which hole you put this pin back into. So you do not want to lose it, because by putting it into one of these holes, it presets the gear mesh. There is no need for faffing around with a piece of paper, etc. on there. So read the Traxxas manual in relation to the new gear that you're fitting, and place this pin back in the relevant hole. Okay, now in my case I fit that in position F because I'm refitting the stock pinion back onto here. Now I'm going to take this pinion gear off, refit the stock pinion back on. Okay, to change the pinion, you've simply got to undo one hex screw, remove the pinion and fit the new one back on. So that's my existing, my stock pinion back on there. Now with a little squeezing around, you simply slide everything back into place. And that whole thing sort of finds itself and sets, for want of a better word. There we go. You need to have a bit of a feel round for that hole on there. Locking that around, everything is in place there. The gear is not moving from side to side, so you know you've got the right mesh in place. Just quickly turn the thing by hand, make sure it's not too tight, etc. And we know that pinion is locked back in place. So that mesh is preset using that little pin beneath it. So if everything feels good in there, the chances are it's not going to go anywhere. You can tell it's in place because the motor won't want to wiggle at all due to that pinion locking in place. I hope that makes sense, guys. Now I'm going to fit these 3 screws back in place. Remember, long screw on the inside. Okay, well, with those 3 screws back in place, the motor is held down nice and tight back in place in there. Just make sure nothing is moving around too much. Now, just as an aside, when putting them back together, I noticed the tiniest little bit of movement in there, and it could be worthwhile tightening up the 2 motor screws, one top, one bottom, which mounts it to the bracket, because I've never done the motor from here before, but obviously maybe a little bit of vibrations come into play. I moved that, so just something to be aware of. There are 2 screws, top and bottom, to tighten on there. Nothing to worry about for most of us though. Now the next step, fit this little plastic cover back over the top. Okay, that nicely secure in place. It is time to put the top deck back on. Okay, as I mentioned, you make sure you put this little tongue under this front part on here when you pop it back together. Simple as that. Now I'm going to put the 8 screws back in place and we're pretty much ready to go. So there we are. That's how to change the Traxxas UDR pinion gear step by step. Hope you found this useful. If you did, then please do consider subscribing for many more great RC videos to come. We hope you liked this video. If you did, please click on the circle image to subscribe. And if you hit subscribe, then don't forget to hit that little notifications bell next to it.